Even the companies like Oracle, and they are having a lot of cloud services portfolio. So again, it is about observation, it is about questioning, asking the question is the key element. Basically, what we used to think it is about the answer, it is about the solution. No, understanding the question, in order to understand the problem, you have to ask a specific and relevant question. And that's an art where you will get an accurate data in order to really incorporate into the system which you will be using to standardize. And of course, you have to be cautious and you have to do some trial and errors. So I just try to define, like, homogenize the heterogeneous interrelationship of the people, process and technology. So it's not just the relation, but also it has an interrelation. If you talk from the data, according to Gartner, a couple of years before, they said big data, again, it will be called as data because the computational power, it was not there, or it is not there. And by the year 2020, the big data challenges will be met. So most of the enterprises, you may have a computational environment, whether it is an on-premises environment or it could be a public hosting environment. So the challenge will be met. It is about simplifying. Innovation is about simplifying the complexity. So again, defining the context, defining the scope, defining the problem, and so that it can be resolved, that is what it matters. So this is about how you should orchestrate requirement gathering process. These are the stuff which is already mentioned over here. So I will try to skip because I have a short time. These are the IT elements. I am here to focus on the IT side of the standardization, which is technological trends. And this IT, so this is the whole cycle: IT governance structure, business requirements and strategic goals, user organization and support, and so on. The framework which I am going to elaborate a little bit, which was proposed to one of the government, where we talk about how to build a framework here. So this is one of the specific scenarios we have taken, where we talk about analysis, accessing the current state of IT, whatever the systems are in place, whether it's hardware, software, whether it is your data storage systems, those kind of things we need to access. Most of the time, not understanding the current state of IT, it gives a big problem, it is a big challenge. And what I have seen as a consultant, like to understand the current state of IT of your existing production system itself, that is time consuming. Even transformation and migrating to a new system and designing and orchestrating a new bunch of application portfolios and different app stores, I think that's not a big difficulty, but documenting the current state of IT, it is something which is so it is about analysis, it is about discovery and establish as is what we have, and also developing a requirement specification document, what kind of requirement and what we need to do, what is the scope of our engagement with regards to the standardization. This is something which need to be taken care at the government level and even for the large organizations. So most of the time it's about request for information and then request for proposal. It goes with, it's not about, it's your IT team, you may be checking what is the requirement, what can be done by the internal IT, what can be done by the other partners, strategic partners, and then you will review. So that is like a breakdown for the framework so it's like a general framework which it can be adopted by any government entity. And then the selection process is happening. Basically, in this particular flow, the assumption is that the service might be outsourced to the other vendor. And then again, we are coming back to the actual national shared system standardizer framework we call shared, because it's not about one data center, it is about several data centers. As an example, in Saudi Arabia, we have more than 300 government agencies. So those government agencies, they have different protocols, different responsibilities, different leadership. So we will try to talk on the architectural slide which I have. So here we are saying here that problem assessment, then solution identification. What is the problem? We need to have that kind of assessment across the different systems and across the different services which is being delivered by the different departments and agencies. This is what, and then viability analysis. What is possible? What is viable? We need to identify that particular thing. And then what is the approach? How we are going to take it forward? And what are the recommendations are involved over there? And what is the risk involved? Because the risk is the thing which you need to always consider. What are the risk factors? We need to identify those risk elements, and we need to register those risk elements. We need to see how we can mitigate. There are risks which need to be prioritized in the short term. There are risks which need to be kept for the long term based on the different constraints you may have. Maybe the constraint with regards to the resources, or timeline, or some engagement, and maybe it is due to the funding and budgeting. So if you see from up, it's about the value stream, and from down, it's like an idea stream. Everything starts with an idea. So basically, from the idea stream towards the value stream, where you will be able to realize what is the value for this particular, from this particular service through the standardization. It's about, so it goes from idea stream to the value stream, and where we are considering all these parameters. Yesterday, I remember a couple of parameters with regards to the happiness. Defining the happiness is itself requires a lot of parameters. So customer satisfaction, which we have been talking all the time. So customer satisfaction, when you are delivering a service and if the customer is satisfied, that means it is one of the component of happiness I could consider. So customer satisfaction is a subset of happiness. Again, happiness parameters, again, it is very much variable and that need to be defined. Like providing accessibility, the e-government, smart government initiative which is happening in Dubai, providing all the government services on the mobile is one of the parameters of happiness. So those parameters might differ from country to country. So again, that definition, it matters, and that definition, it again depends on the strategic priorities and on the government 5-year or whatever the plan and whatever the vision you have, again that depends. So again, we are talking about analysis here, RFI, RFP, this breakdown I have given in the previous slide. And this is the work stream where we are talking about the operational excellence. When we want to achieve an excellence after implementing the standardized methodological approach, the excellence, it is not about getting whatever the management, senior management has expected from their vision, from their mission. It's not just about that. We need to break down what it means for the different government agencies, for the different government departments, and what are those KPIs, identifying and aligning those KPIs in understanding with the business owners, that's what it is important. Basically, the operational excellence where the different activities is being delivered by the different individuals in the respective ministries, this is what it matters. At the end of the day, we have seen, like as a CIOs, information is there, but if you are not taking an action, what is the use of that information? So action has to be an integral part or directly proportional to the information. You know it most of the time when we talk about, yes, I know it, but you have not taken any action. So action is nothing but it's an operational activities which are being performed by the different stakeholders based on the roles which has been given. So when you talk about the roles, it is not about the roles what has been given, but it is about documenting those roles and configuring the system in a way that those roles only can be executed. Because what we have seen, most of the resources, they are engaged in doing very important things according to themselves, but it is not meeting the expectations of the business owner or the leadership. So that alignment has to happen from top to down and from down to up. That's what we are talking about here. So operational and strategic, and this has to be a business case. This is the whole framework which I would like to talk. So business case process flow for the national shared system standardized framework. So it starts with the need analysis, strategic fit. Yes, we have a need, but does it really work for us to see the fitness of this particular thing or this particular initiative which we are willing to roll out? So we need to check that particular. So this is about the problem assessment. Solution identification, what is the solution? When you know the problem, then only the solution can be identified. So understanding the problem or understanding the case is not just about a single department or single, it is a shared understanding. Again, that shared, it breaks down. We need to identify the different groups of stakeholders so that the system can be standardized in a way which can cater to majority of the residents and to the citizens. Again, the same breakdown over here. So I'll just move on to the other thing. You might have heard this is something. How many of you are aware about Docker and containerization? Have you heard this? This is something new which is emerging these days. It is called like open source. It is an open source technology for maintaining the Linux containers, where it is like everybody knows virtualization, virtual servers, and all of that, and that is one of the steps which we take it forward in order to move to the cloud. So this is similar to virtualization, just for the sake of understanding, I'm saying. So what is Docker and container technology? It is an open source technology for maintaining Linux containers, which is an open source again. It is an automation of process where you can roll out the continuous integration process and continuous delivery. You don't need to integrate anything. It will be automatically, the system will integrate in the background. So, and no need of reconfiguration. Let's say you make a virtual image for a specific service in your data center, maybe by utilizing one virtual server, or maybe you can have the server farm, where you will be able to apply those business rules so that a virtual server can be managed properly. The same thing, but here you can still break down into smaller components. So the kernel, it becomes like for us in the virtualization, we see like one kernel having so many virtualized servers, instances. But here you can have a different kernel, which is the core of the operating system. This is a little technical. So that will provide a more stable, because if anything happens, that will happen only to that particular instance of the container. This will be the good thing. And it runs anything, anywhere, on any device. You don't need to have something, you don't need to put any kind of efforts. And it gives a repeatable builds also. Here, this is like a definition. Docker is an open source engine that automates the deployment of any application. It will automate as a lightweight, portable, and self-sufficient container that will run virtually anywhere. So if there are any updates or there are any patches need to be applied, or we need to run this particular instance at some place, what we have seen, this is the virtual instance. For this, we need this particular operating system, this particular device, this particular versions, and all of that. So I just want to share that particular thing. Methodology, architectural approach. Basically, I don't see myself. So you have to have an architectural vision, and we need to see how we can crack down based on the to gather the requirement effectively and efficiently. This is what I am saying. I have other slides which will talk more on the architectural thing. So interoperability, it is one of the key element for the successful adoption of the cloud. The time when the internet was evolved, the challenge was how a PC can be connected to the other PC. Yes. So that PC is nothing but an IP address. One IP address cannot be, how it can be connected to the other IP address. That was the challenge, and this is how the internet has been evolved. And now the challenge is about how one cloud can connect, or how one data center can connect to the other data center. When I said connect, it's like a keyword. Connectivity is not just the connectivity. Connectivity, we are talking about the integration connectivity in the sense of protocols connectivity, connectivity in the sense of architectural connectivity, connectivity in the sense of having a one application which has a distributed environment, you can have a distributed service delivery where you see in terms of Hadoop, which it helps the data to be analyzed, gather the data from the different, not only gather the data from the distributed data centers, but it analyzes the data which is very close to its geographic location, and it gives the analyzed packet. So when we are seeing a kind of dashboard or BI or something, you will see and analyze information, and the performance for that particular BI application will be much faster. We have seen basically when we were designing the BI reports, most of the time the way how our database guys they used to pursue is like they try to fetch the data from the raw tables, and that will give a performance issue. And sometimes I have seen like some reports it will take like days, and some reports it takes hours, because the way it has to be designed, the way how the data marts has been populated from the tables, and how you are designing those views, that requires a database designer, and that requires a database orchestration. So the connectivity, interoperability, which I was saying, so it's about the business processes, how the business processes are interoperable, how the information governance is happening, and how the technological interoperability it can be possible. So when we are saying technological interoperability is not just about the single sign-on where you are getting authenticated. No, even you are getting authenticated, but those services which we are publishing in your application through widgets or through different apps, the performance, maybe it will be time out. Some of the data, it will take time for that to be populated on the different devices. Yes, the technology enablement is there, but the readiness, the standardization has to happen at the background. And this is the key element for the successful adoption and acceptance. Yesterday we have been listening that acceptance is the key for the success for the project. So if people are not using that particular service, what is the use of doing all that hard work? So not only getting a shared feedback, but also delivering in a way where we are solving the customer problem. It is an integral part of the standardization. Of course, the information availability on any time, anywhere, and any device, cheaper, faster, and better. This is what we have been listening, and there are a lot of things I need to skip. Confidentiality. We have seen the confidentiality still. It's one of the concern where Facebook, Google, and we have seen a lot of privacy, and we are just accepting. In the last summit I showed, because the day when I was traveling for the OT summit to Abu Dhabi, on the same night Facebook has updated its privacy statement. And I showed in that particular event some of the slides, some of the print screens which I have taken. So you need to understand basically what we think today. Oh, it's okay, come on, Facebook is about the collaboration and communication. And it's okay. What may not be mattering today to you, it matters tomorrow. What was, who thought that PRISM attack which we have seen, that where unauthorized access to the information has been by some government authorities, and later we found it became known. So the customer base has shaken up, and they said, how come you have taken the data without having a proper approvals? So confidentiality. So when you are designing a confidentiality, it is not just about the application level. It is at the data level, it is at the data sets, what data should be available to whom and when. Because not everything should be available every time. So you need to design a database structure and see what are the data which we need to map and which need to be which is required by the specific government agency or the ministry. Integrity of the data, integration of the systems, integration of the protocols, everything it matters here. This is about the cloud maturity model. I used to say it because most of the time people they think when you talk about the cloud it is about the virtualization, or maybe it's one of the steps of virtualization. So before you actually talk about the virtualization, and I have seen most of the organization, whatever they have like 200, 300, 400 servers, they just virtualize, they do the capacity planning, just with the mindset how we can migrate the old junk to the new hardware. That's all. So what I am trying to say that you have to do the due diligence in terms of assessment, and you have to standardize. Standardize in the sense of, let's say, standardization from the database server level. You have a database server, SQL server as an example, 2005, there is 2008, there is 2010, there is 2014, there is 2012. And different applications requires a different database versioning. So what I'm trying to say here, you have to do the standardization before you actually get the full benefit of virtualization. Then once you virtually standardize, then it is easy for you to consolidate. We can consolidate all different versions of those database servers, different versions of those LDAP stuff which you have, and different versions of those application servers, and so on. And then you go for the virtualization. And this is what we call about the lean government. Because you can't get lean. Yes, you are getting lean when you have 500 servers, now you have 200 or 100 boxes, it's lean. But again, the fat is here, these two places. Again, assessment is about understanding the state of your current IT. And then again, you talk about automation and self-service provisioning, alignment and integration. This is the place where I'm telling to my customers that you are ready for going to the cloud. Okay, some of the slides I'm going to skip, so I'm not going to take time. This is what, so when we talk about the big data, again, we are talking about, again, standardizing the big data. When we talk about the big data, for some, it is about, for the CFOs, basically, it's about saving money and seeing those dashboards. And for the IT people, it is about your enterprise warehouse, data warehouse you have. You are getting the social data from the different social networks, SMS, and then integrate and make a meaningful way of presenting the data on different devices. But again, from my perspective, a database is a functional structure. Database, when big data, it is about the storage and standardization of those storages. Big data management, it is about the queries and service-oriented architecture applications which you have designed. Big data analytics, it is about the machine learning, which we have been seeing for the past 10 years, that even Amazon, when we used to go and buy something, so there used to be like recommendations based on the activities and behavior, because they were capturing those clicks, and there was some analytics which was happening based on cookies. They used to see your behavioral patterns on the net. And again, the big data application which consume all of these services. So all these four layers requires standardization. Again, this is what I was talking about. Descriptive analytics, this is the big data analytics or business and predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. These are the three major stuff which we have been actually here. decide. But again, prescriptive analysis, where it will, based on the behavioral patterns, based on the problem parameters which you have already defined, it will give a kind of recommendation. What kind of focus, what kind of prediction, and then this is a prescriptive analytics, which is predictive. We are talking about the predictive analytics most of the time, but prescriptive analytics, where the system will recommend this is what it is going to happen. And this is a little technical side. When we talk about the architecture, which I was saying, database architecture, data architecture, process architecture, business architecture, technology architecture, and application architecture. All these elements which you see, that requires a standardization at that level. You cannot standardize unless you list and document, and so that what can be collabed, what can be integrated, what can be shrinked in order to make a lean government possible. Okay, I think I'm almost done. This is what I used to show, where you need to capture, correlate, and process, manage, measure, consume, and store, so that your data will be available. And that requires a governance. All this standardization for the services, standardization of framework cannot be possible, cannot be successful, unless you have to bounce back with a resilience, where governance is an integral part of doing what you have been doing. I would like to say thank you for listening to me, and if there are any questions.
Thank you, Ahmed. We've run over time, so we'll perhaps have the questions in the break time. Round of applause, please.